were to look back 3 to 5 years from now and say that this coaching conversation today was the moment that changed everything for you about your prep, what would need to happen?
I have done multiple timing section like every Friday, and I noticed that I can finish all of them, all of the logical reasoning and logic game. However, do I get them right? How much time I spend on looking back and checking an answer is just not that efficient at all. Like in logical reasoning, I can finish all 25 questions within the 35 minutes time limit. However, in logical game, I can finish 3.5 game and then I would just run out of time. Mainly, I like my very last game. Normally, they're the hardest, right? Am I correct?
Yeah, it does get a little bit harder as it goes on. So I'm wondering, Cyrus, for the logic games, is it possible that you're spending too much time on the easier games? Do you think it would be possible for you to change your time allocation on the easy games specifically?
I think I am. I noticed that I spend most of my time on the third game.
Okay.
Yeah. First and second, I can knock them out really quickly. But when I hit the third game, I start like overanalyzing, like try to predict multiple answers. Like you said before, the whole diagram and connect all the conditions together, then move into the question, right?
Yeah.
And I've been doing that and it helps a lot. But when I started to like do in and out games and stuff like that, I would just spend a lot of times on just drawing out multiple possibilities, like at least 3 of them before I jump into the question. For example, Monday we had the meeting and Brittany did the Legally Blonde game.
Yeah.
Correct. And I actually afterward I did it myself also because I never really looked into it. And I actually, without timing, the first time I ever done it, I got only one question wrong. I think it was number 9 wrong when they're talking about which I'm pretty surprised that is the hardest like LSAT game, and I only got one wrong.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and it took me a while. It took me like I think 15 minutes to figure everything out. So, and my whole notes and everything, I just spent so much time on just drawing out all the possibility and everything. So that's mostly where all my time spent it on. Logic game is where my time that well at also. Like I said previously, I can't finish the very last game. So, but I can get like the first to third game, 100% accuracy. And then the last game, I just couldn't finish it. So I will always have like -4 or 5 in logic game.
Right. So there's a couple of things. One of them is, like I said, is about going faster through the easiest games, not second guessing yourself. But regardless, on all 3 of those games, games 1 through 3, I wonder, to what extent are you making use of previous work?
Work that I use to a certain extent, right? I'm not really understanding what that.
So, like, for example, let's say that you have the correct answer to your orientation question, which gives you an example of a valid hypothetical scenario.
Correct.
Then, for any local if questions, you also have the valid scenarios you've drawn for those.
Mm-hmm.
Those could help you to solve general global questions in the game. So I'm wondering, to what extent are you using those previous diagrams that you've drawn to help you solve new questions?
I do use them. Like if I've normally, like you said, the first question is the organization questions, right? You just pick whatever it fit the rules and conditions. Every single time when I finish the very first question, I would write that answer down on a piece of paper and match up with all my predictions. So I will use that framework to develop into, and when local game happens, like for example, if A go to third, then I can apply everything together, then look for my answers. So that's how I does it. Instead of like drawing out everything, I'll just look at it, look at what I have in hand and think it in my head, and then just figure the answer right away.
You mean you're trying to draw less and do more in your head?
Yes.
I see. I think we talked about this on our initial call.
Because I draw out so much. Yeah, I've drawn so much already that I don't really need to draw anymore. So I can, if I look at like all 5 answers, I can already eliminate at least 3 of them and only 2 left, which I can just either draw out a little bit and just straight up figure out, A is going to be the correct answer instead of D,
Excellent. Well, I love that you're eliminating a couple of choices, 3 choices based on your previous work. Then for those remaining 2, you might draw it out, each of those, or you might not. That's really up to you. Right. I wonder if potentially it's taking you longer to think it in your head than to actually just draw it out. People often think that drawing will cost them time, but it could actually save you time. And especially if you just don't overly stress about the drawing, but just, to draw 7 horizontal slots doesn't take that long. You don't have to draw a fully fleshed out diagram. You don't have to number all the slots. And what you draw out could, again, potentially help you even later in the game.
Okay, I see. All right.
So I would recommend you experiment with that a little bit.
I'll try that. I'll try that out.
So go ahead, please.
Second question is that, like I said previously on last meeting that we had, logical reasoning are where my struggles are at. I can't really find consistency, and I have been doing what you have said before, doing a incorrect answer notebook. So which it does help, and I have just like jump back into it and do some previous incorrect questions and try to understand how I did it wrong and why the answer that I picked was incorrect and why the answer that's supposed to be correct are correct. It does help, but I've just been reading it mindlessly instead of like really looking to it. I'll be like, I see it because of this part and this part, which makes this answer correct. And what I picked is missing the first part of it, which I totally understand how I got the answer wrong, but I don't see how it will help me for like later questions, like future questions.
Yeah, sure. Great question. So first off,
you see it? That's like
I do see what you're saying. Yeah. So first off, in the moment that you're writing it out, it's forcing you to articulate your thought process. Okay. So it's forcing you to slow down and thoroughly understand the question as deeply as possible at that point in time. Mm-hmm. What you could do then is every question that you noted in your journal, you could reattempt all of those problems again a week later or 2 weeks later or a month later or beyond. Okay. Reattempt all of those questions without looking at what you wrote initially. Then upon your review of those questions, you could write out your thought process once again, a second time, and compare your results and your note-taking on each attempt. Or upon your review, you could look back at what you wrote initially and see if you're making the same mistakes yet again, or if you have learned from the previous time. Okay.
Got it. So, should I, because I'm going to take my exam on September 21st, should I do exam now, or so I still focus on what I'm doing right now? Like I think I've been doing the logical reasoning list that you have provided, and from practice test 7, I've been starting to do practice test 7 to, I think I'm up to 14 right now. So I stopped doing that and just focus on the newer tests, or?
Yeah, I would suggest focusing on the newer exams at this point. Yeah, your exam, of course, is coming up pretty soon. Right. I would suggest you do at least one timed exam per week, along with detailed review of that exam. And as you note questions that gave you difficulty, you can mark them in your journal. Okay. And so in a way, you're combining the work of the journal and reviewing tough questions with doing full-length timed exams.
Okay.
And you could also do, I know that you're studying a lot these days, you have the time, you could do 2 timed exams per week since you have the time. And I would focus, of course, on the newest exams. Whether you've seen them before or not is really irrelevant at this point. It's more about focusing on recent material and having that full section experience, that full sitting for the endurance factor as well.
All right, got it. Okay. Also, I've been like not doing so well with recreating the test environment, which is pretty hard because I've been doing it by myself. So I like it. Is it okay that I time myself each section and then take a break and then do it again, or is it just like I just have to like dig down and just simulate the whole testing environment? Is it, if I do that, is that going to be more useful than just me being like I don't know, not being I don't know how to say it, but being
the full section the 5-section experience is really important. The endurance is a factor. So I don't think it's okay to do 4 individual sections, then add them up later. Okay. That's not going to be the same experience. You've got to get used to sitting there for 3 hours, doing 5 sections with only a short break in the middle. It's 3 sections back to back, then your break, then 2 more sections back to back. If you don't have the time to do a full-length 5-section exam, you could do 3 back-to-back here and 2 back-to-back there. At least that's doing something for you with regard to the endurance. But ideally, it's important to do the full 5-section exam. And being home, I don't see how that necessarily has to impact things. That just requires other people to not interrupt you and you not to distract yourself.
Yeah. Okay. I will try to do that.
And also, some of the big prep companies like Kaplan and Princeton Review, they offer proctored exams. So you could look up the one that's nearest to you. They do this for marketing purposes, of course, but you could tune out the sales pitch or leave before that, depending on when they do it, and just even bring your own exam if you want.
Okay.
There are also YouTube videos and such that give you the proctored timing and everything, and so you could use those as well for at home.
Okay, I'll try to do that. And one last question is the new digital LSAT. Surface Go, right? Am I correct? And it's touch screen, and you have to jot down all the notes on a separate piece of paper. I'm just wondering, like, from what I heard from you, you said that it's better not to use their highlighting tools and stuff like that.
Correct. Yeah, I don't think the highlighting tools and the underlining tools are that useful. They're also somewhat limited.
Okay.
It's not perfectly responsive, so I wouldn't be counting on those tools. Okay. Of course, different people work differently, and you might find value in the highlighter. Personally, I don't think it's that useful, but you can play with it and see what it's like. You can go on LSAC's site on your computer or ideally on a tablet to look at exactly what it's like. Mm-hmm. But I would recommend, though, primarily focusing any notations you make on your scratch paper, because technology can't ruin that. It's just your pen or pencil and the scratch paper, and you have total freedom on that to do what you want.
Okay. Yeah, I've been using that LSAC familiar test thing at a lot. I mean, not a lot, but every Friday using that as like a time practice test.
Nice. Good.
So I'm just trying to use that to familiarize myself with the digital LSAT, and also it gives you a timer too, so that's pretty nice.
Definitely.
Right. Okay. I'm still using my old technique of quantity over quality, so I had to kind of break that habit of just not doing that.
Yeah, and I think Cyrus, I think you got to slow down. You got to slow down and take the time to thoroughly understand the stimulus before you move on to the choices.
Okay.
Oftentimes I find that students, and you can tell me if this is your situation as well, they'll read the stimulus, not fully understand it, and move on to the choices, hoping that clears things up. But if anything, that only further complicates things, because the choices only make sense in the context of the stimulus.
Yeah. I think I'm doing the same thing too, because I constantly give myself the same pressure that I had before when I'm bunch in questions, and sometimes those passages are quite complicated with like science stuff, and I I would just sometimes ignore certain words because I'm like, oh, I don't know what is meant, but I know it's related to some sort of science. And when I move on to the question, to the answer choice, I will kind of ignore science word, which is like kind of the key point of the answer choice, and then I got the wrong answer because of that. I've noticed that I noticed that I've been doing that quite a lot, but which I've tried to slow down when I read through the passage and read through the passage and then move on to the question choice.
And that's what they're looking for you to do. They're looking for you to get tripped up by the difficult language and the topic. They know that pre-law students typically aren't science experts. So that's exactly what they want. But what I want you to do instead, Cyrus, is focus instead on the structure of the argument. What's the conclusion? Find that first. What's the evidence? What's the method of reasoning? How reasonable is it? What is the gap in the argument? And then move forward from there.
Okay.
So focus on that while you're solving them, and then focus on that later during your review.
Got it.
And
like I've been doing that too. I've been trying to find a conclusion first, like reasoning / evidence, and then I will try to find a gap between them, which you are supposed to do, right? Is or find what is connecting them together, and then look for the answer choice. That's the correct way to do it. Am I correct?
Exactly.
Okay. Method of reasoning. That's one thing I don't really understand too. Can you explain to me a little bit more about the method of reasoning?
Yeah, sure. Well, the method of reasoning is
the
method of reasoning is how the author goes about making their argument. So what kind of evidence are they using to indicate what sort of conclusion? So for example, if I said to you, the LSAT is a marathon, not a sprint, meaning don't do a timed exam every single day, or don't set a goal of 1,000 questions a day. Break it down step by step, day by day. That would be an argument by analogy. I'm using the analogy of the marathon as evidence for your LSAT study journey for you to carry out your LSAT study journey in a particular way.
Oh, I see.
The idea being that both a marathon and LSAT studying have in common that you shouldn't do too much too soon.
Right.
Instead, take a more gradual approach and spread out the work, spread out the training.
I see. Okay. I understand now. Okay. Okay. That helps.
Awesome. It's kind of like you want to extract a general principle out of the argument that you could then apply to another kind of situation.
Okay. Got it.
Think about parallel reasoning questions, for example. In parallel reasoning questions, you are taking the method of reasoning and then putting it somewhere else.
I see. Okay.
Totally different topic, but the structure will be the same.
Okay. Got it. Okay. That helps. That helps a lot. Okay.
Great, Cyrus. Glad to hear it. So we're about up for today. What would you say is the biggest insight you got from our coaching session today?
Definitely the logical reasoning, because I never really fully understand the method of reasoning, and so that definitely helps. And then the logic game, where it's better to draw up more instead of just trying to think of it in my head. So I'll try to do both more often and see if I get any improvement.
Excellent. Great. And what's been most impactful for you with the coaching that we've been doing?
Hearing a bunch of other people having similar issues and seeing all those people are working toward the same direction that I'm going, it kind of helps up a little bit, because I've been studying all by myself alone with no study partner or anything. That it kind of it's like a stress relief, kind of an AA reading, So yeah, I kind of enjoy the coaching meetings and conference call, because it's kind of nice to hear how other people tackle with their problems, and I can learn from that, and from my insight, I can give to other people too. So, yeah.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear it's been helping you, Cyrus.